so that we all have the opportunity to share the verbiage and to share some of the answers. So does anyone want to start? If you don't want to unmute yourself, that's fine. If you want to just dump it into the chat section, that's okay as well. But if anyone has any questions, now's your opportunity.
Can I ask a question, Tam?
Yes, go for it.
What's your verbiage around complete when you're talking to complete to people as a doctor? What do you say about it?
Yeah, great question, Tam. So for me, complete, I never gelled with complete when it first came onto the market, I've got to tell you. I've always been about teaching people how to eat right. And the whole idea of taking a shake to replace a meal was something that never really gelled with me. So I don't really talk about this as a meal replacement. And in fact, if you actually read the information about the product and you read what's on here, it's classified as a meal supplement. And the reason that I've come around to Juice Plus Complete is, as a person, not so much as a doctor, but as a person, my life has got uber busy. You know, I juggle kids, I juggle work, I juggle Juice Plus, just like we all do. And sometimes life just gets in the way. And so sometimes I will miss breakfast. I've got to be open and honest about that. I used to be really good, but sometimes I'll be so on the go with the rest of the family that the last person I think of in the morning is me. And if I were to think of me, I'd probably just grab a piece of toast with Vegemite on it and chomp it in the car. Not nutritionally the best choice. Or sometimes we will go through the drive-through at lunchtime or duck into the cafe because we forgot to prepare our meal for lunch, and go for the cheeky toasted focaccia. Or sometimes at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when you're just looking for something, you'll go for the chocolate biscuit in the work Bicky tin, or even that piece of chocolate at 9 o'clock at night time. So for me, where this has become valuable, and this is as a person, is when I'm going to make a poor choice about reaching for the convenience foods. And the convenience foods are the, simple carbohydrates, the higher fats, the higher sugars, the foods that contain the addictive substances like the salts and the sugars. So for me, this is an opportunity to make a better choice when I was otherwise going to make a poor choice. And what I like about the complete, apart from the sachet is fabulous, but what I like about this is that you've literally got a complete meal. So if you were to combine it, say, with a nut milk, for example, an almond milk or a rice milk, whatever is most palatable for you, even water, I actually prefer it with water, and I'll tell you why in a sec. Is that it's got your proteins, it's got your carbohydrates, it's got a fiber blend, it's also got additional superfoods, that's the plus in here. And then if you mix it with a nut milk, for example, you'll have some fats in there as well. So it ends up actually being a complete meal. It gives you everything in a vegan vegetarian form. The only thing that I struggle with, and this is me personally, and I've found this with a few customers, is that when they combine it with, say, a nut milk, and they might throw in some fruit, perhaps some berries, maybe some banana, some people put avocado in it, what you're starting to do is increase the FODMAP. So that's your fermented oligosaccharides, your polyphenols, your monosaccharides, and P, I can't remember what the other P is, FOD, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyphenols. So those longer chain sugars, once you increase those, some people are a little intolerant to them. So I have had quite a few people complain of gas, and I know Nat has a really good strategy for that. But I have found some people get quite gassy if they're having, say, 2 of these shakes a day, or if they're combining it with a lot of fruit. So I know Nat and Carla both have some better recipes when they're combining it more with vegetables than they are with fruits. I take out the almond milk because almond milk is actually quite high FODMAP. And I find that I don't have the gassiness. So that would be the only thing I say. Some people come back and say, I'm a bit gassy. I say, well, maybe drop down to just 1 of these per day, or start to combine it with some vegetables, or perhaps even take out the nut milks, which can be quite high. But other than that, that's kind of how I utilise this term. There is one research study that has been done on complete back in the day. I can't remember what year it was. I'm thinking it's around 1998, when they looked at people on a weight loss regime and those that were doing a calorie controlled diet versus those who were including complete in the diet as well. And what they found is though they both groups lost weight, but those who were on complete lost less muscle mass than the group that were on a calorie controlled diet. So what this will do is preserve that really important muscle, because muscle is one of our fat burning components of our body. So there's one study done on that. There's also a study done on complete in an ovarian cancer survivors group. So, you know, a lot of people worry about the phytoestrogens in the soy, which are kind of negligible because there's only 13 grams of protein and a fifth of that is the soy-based component of that. So it's not a lot. And they utilised this in a post-cancer cohort, and they found they had much better quality of life and better general overall health and well-being. So that's the other study that's done with Complete. I know Natalie has some inside information about an upcoming study that's been done on Complete, but does that help, Tam?
Yeah, it helps heaps. I have always really disliked Complete because of the sugar and other things. I never ever recommended it, but I'm just kind of starting to get my head around how it could help with gut health and all that sort of stuff. So I have a few customers on it. I've started taking it, which is pretty big because I didn't like it. But yeah, I just wanted to know what you thought about it, and that does help. So thank you.
Yeah, I've similarly, and now I'll pass over to you in a sec. I've similarly had some people ask questions about the sugar. Carla has a great response to this, but when sugars are combined with protein and fibre, you'll always reduce the rate at which they're taken up into the bloodstream. So that comes down to the glycemic index. And when you look at the glycemic index of Complete, it's about 30. The glycemic index of a potato, for example, is about 100. So we're not doing too badly as far as, yes, I agree, the actual calorie content, the sugar content, is a little bit elevated, but the rate at which it's taken up into the bloodstream is slow. So that satiety actually happens over a longer period of time. And I know Carla's the iQuit sugar expert. So Carla, I'm not sure if you've got anything to say about this before we hand over to Nat.
Yeah, look, I think you pretty much kind of nailed it when you said about the fibre content, and same goes with adding other ingredients. You know, one of the things that I also try to explain is at the end of the day, we know that when carbohydrates, which are plants, are broken down, they also become sugars. So given that the Complete contains 20 different plant-based ingredients, it kind of makes sense that it's also going to have a higher sugar content in that sense as well. Not necessarily, like you said, from added sugar, even though there is stevia in there, and it's cane sugar, I think, if I'm right. But I find my answer is normally, you know, you've got to learn when to give and take. Now, for me, to find something that has that much of a variety of plant-based, wheat-free, vegan ingredients, you know, for that kind of amount of sugar and with all the fibre and everything it has, and then when you add other things to it, I don't think you can get better than that. And I think sometimes you just got to kind of pick and choose your battles realistically.
And Nat?
Yeah, and when Carla, that's perfect information. There's one thing to add to this. Remember that glucose sugars convert to glycogen in the muscles. As long as someone's exercising, they're using those sugars in the muscles. So this is really important information. The other thing too, if someone does have a bit of a sugar or fructose intolerance, what you want to do is guide them to the recipes in Carla's book, in the Complete Life Transformation, in the How to Plate Up, where there's a green smoothie and it's vegetable based with just one piece of fruit. The Complete is sweet enough to almost not even have any fruit in there whatsoever. So when you just load up all those green leafies and make a beautiful green smoothie, you're actually cancelling out most of the sugar anyway, and it really is a seesaw game. So if somebody just has banana, milk and vanilla Complete, for someone who has a sugar intolerance or has systemic Candida albicans, which is a yeast and fungal infection, or they already have an existing gut problem, it's too much sugar. It's even too much sugar for me. I mean, I don't know if anyone else is like that, but I would never have a smoothie like that. I think that is just, it's a poor choice of nutrition. I really think we need to focus on the green smoothies, even with every recipe in Carla's book and every recipe in How to Plate Up, and I am pretty sure that Complete Life Transformation is the same, is that there is 3 to 4 or even 4 or 5 part veg and 1 or 2 pieces of fruit. It's very low with the fruit sugars. So I just think that we need to understand that veg is the best.
Yeah, right. Awesome. Any other questions?
Oh, Tamara, did you want me to share about the new information on the Complete?
Yeah, please do.
So I've been talking to Mark Ledoux, Lisa Pepple and Carlos Madeira for the last couple of weeks, just asking if they're going to make us a fermented probiotic. Now, I really want this for us because I want something we can use for gut health. But guess what? I did not know this information. I think this is brilliant. That Mark's argument is this: that will take a very long time to see in Australia, but also too, the legalities for every country is very tricky. And because it's a live ferment, and ferments are very hard to pass, they have been put it on the back burner, but they're actually still working on it. So we may see that in the future. But he said to me, they've just done a study out of the University of Memphis, and these are some of the findings. And also too, this is what Mark is saying about the Complete. That garlic, the cognac root, the cacao, the apple and citrus pectins, and the fructooligosaccharides, I hate that word, I can't say it, sorry, but those 5 ingredients within the Complete are pre and probiotic natured, making the Complete a probiotic food. So it actually has a probiotic and prebiotic nature. Prebiotic mean good for the gut to help receive nutrition, and a probiotic to make sure the microbiome in the gut is neutralized and leveled out, equalized. So it actually is phenomenal. And when Tamara and myself, and I'm sure Carla's been the same at times, when we looked at the Complete and we saw the sugar levels, we struggled with it. But now I'm starting to get a lot of valuable information around how phenomenal this food actually is. And so I think we should be really proud of it, and I just can't wait for our study to come out.
Yeah, that'll be really exciting. Something else that Nick Nation taught us, and I would encourage you all to go back and have a listen to his presentation that he did on gut health in Transformation Hub, was that everybody has a different probiotic requirement. So just to give someone Acidophilus bifidus is not going to have the same effect in every single person. We all have our own individualized, I guess, blueprint of our microbiomes. So, if the company were to produce a fermented probiotic, it would probably be just 1 or a couple of different strains. But in fact, all of us are individual. So by actually giving the nutrient, the pre-probiotic, the fructooligosaccharides that feed the gut microbiome, you're actually doing better for the microbiome than you are by actually creating the probiotic. So I think that's really exciting. And I think, as Nat sort of said, this is going to give us our complete nutritional panel. We've got our oils, we've got our micronutrients. We'll now have something for our gut health. And obviously we've got our macros that help us get through the day when we're going to make a poor choice. So it's exciting. It's an exciting perspective on Complete. And I certainly think this innovates the product a little bit more. Now, somebody asked Philippa, so would you recommend someone who has diabetes to only have vegetables with Complete and perhaps just water? Yeah, I think the simple answer is yes. Again, someone with diabetes needs to have as low glycemic index as possible. So the more fruit that you add into Complete, the more you're just going to increase its glycemic index. So yes, having it with water. I mean, firstly, diabetics, it's all about the capsules. There is negligible amount of carbohydrates in the fruit, the veggies, or the berry capsules. Most diabetics would be totally discouraged from having berries at all in their diet because they're really high in, the glycemic index is really high. So the sugars get across into the system really quickly. So they'd be discouraged from having all those beautiful blueberries and strawberries and raspberries and all those things we know have amazing antioxidants to help their vascular health and to help the issues with their diabetes. So the berry blend is an absolute no-brainer, I think, when it comes to diabetics. We've got the cardiovascular study, which shows how good it is for our cardiovascular health. And in the fruit, veg and berry blend, you're even better than just the fruit and veg blend. So for me, for diabetics, the number one product of choice is absolutely the capsules. That's first line for me. And then if they're going to take complete, I would minimize the amount of stuff that they're putting in there, simply with water. We know it's got some taste on its own, and put in some fibrous vegetables, which is going to help prevent the glycemic index from climbing. Do you have any other comments on that, Nat or Carla?
Just really quickly, today I listened to the most profound lecture on lectins, and it was by MD Gundry. I don't know if anyone's heard of him, but he talks about what you can have and what you can't have and blah, blah, blah. But he's come up with this formula, and he said it's the only one of its kind in the world, and his formula is called Vital Reds. Has anyone heard of it?
I've only heard of Vital Greens.
No, it's called Vital Reds, right? And guess what it's got in it? Every single ingredient that the berry blend's got in it. And he said there's no other formula on the planet that has this arrangement, and it's the identical ingredients in his formula. But he has got sugars in his, and it's made into like a drink for kids. So it's in a big canister. So I loved this lecture because it just really proves that it proves two things: that those properties, the polyphenols, which is what we're getting out of the berry blend, is actually very good for heart health. It's restabilizing blood sugar levels, normalizing hormones, working on heart health, skin health. And everything that we talk about with the berry blend is true and accurate. However, we've just got this fantastic product, which is minus the sugar, so very good for diabetics too. And I also think the diabetic formula is the fruit, veg, berry blend and omegas. I think it's very important to have the nervous system supported for diabetics. With diabetics, I always recommend an alkalizing diet and one that is organic where possible, and then just removing all those things that the Shred 10 talks about. That's really going to help someone who's diabetic. Carla, do you have anything else to add?
No, not really. I mean, look, I think unless you're following some sort of very strict sugar kind of diets, obviously diabetics have to avoid it, or unless you're doing an I Quit Sugar program, which I did, which was for a certain amount of weeks when I worked on the panel. Realistically, I don't think you need to worry too much about it. And if you are either cut down on the sachets and set in terms of use half a sachet if you want each time, and then you may want to use some other sort of plant-based powder as well with it if you feel you need extra, or just be happy like that. A lot of my clients just like half a sachet just for taste as well, or then just dumb it down in terms of like adding any more sweetener or fruit, which you shouldn't need to. So I know that like Cammie's not here, but she doesn't even use fruit in hers, and hers are delicious and they look amazing, and it's all vegetable. She never adds fruit. She doesn't feel she needs it with the sweetener she gets from the Complete. So I think sometimes we just feel we need to add the honey or the extra bit of this and whatever on top, and you don't need to. You only need a little bit to go a long way. So I think just choose where you want to pull back if it's a concern for you, but realistically for most of us it's not.
Awesome, thank you. Hey, I'm just going through all of my research papers right now because Sarah's asked the question, is the research study on the Complete on the weight loss accessible? I don't actually think it is, but I think, I'm just looking through my pile here of 50 million journals. I don't have it here, but I know that I have a copy of it on online. So I will post that onto Life Movement. And if you're not on Life Movement, please add yourselves, guys. There's heaps of resources that's there for everybody. I'll add the summary of the study onto Life Movement so that you can have a look at it. Are there any more questions? Come on, there's got to be more questions.
Tamara, can you just share with everybody what the omegas actually do for people? I think people are still really struggling with the verbiage here. I can add to it, but I'd love to see what a medical person would say about this.
Okay, so omegas, as far as their impact in disease, is relatively new. So there's, I think over the next 10 years, this is what I love about Juice Plus, is that they're ahead of the rest. Like 25 years ago, 26 years ago, when the Juice Plus capsules that came out, everyone was like, what? What is that? No, you can't possibly put fruits and vegetables in a capsule and expect them to have health effects. We're now looking 25 years down the track, 35 plus studies down the track, and copious amounts of copycat products out there, and people get whole food nutrition in a capsule. So I think, you know, we're still just at the beginning of omegas in health. But you see, every single cell in the human body has a cell membrane, and that cell membrane is made up of alternating protein, fat, protein, fat, protein, fat, protein, fat, protein, fat, all the way around the membrane. And the fat that is in the membrane is actually omegas. So omegas are an essential fat for every single cell within our body, particularly the nervous system. I know Nat likes to talk about this, so I'll leave this for her to talk about. But so we know that omegas are really important. Now, most of us, and I say most of us, will get it from our diet. Where can we get it? We get it from fatty fish, and we also get it from the nuts and seeds that we consume. But again, we come back to the classic problem that we have with fruits and vegetables, is that most people don't eat that food on a regular basis. Most people are eating the simple carbohydrates, the white bread, the white flour, the white rice, and stuff out of a packet, which is not fortified with omegas. So therefore, many of us are short in where we should be getting omegas every single day to help with cell rejuvenation. And so omegas are really important, and that's why omega supplementation came into being. There is a certain balance between omegas that we should be having. We should actually be having some pro-inflammatory omegas and also some anti-inflammatory omegas. Nat can talk more to the proportions of those. But the main ones we've been focused on in research is omega-3 and omega-6 in lesser amounts. So a lot of studies show that omega-3s are vitally important in preterm babies. So they actually supplement the feeds of preterm babies with omega-3. And we also know that in cardiovascular, there's a lot of cardiovascular research that shows that omegas are really important for helping balance, of all things, our lipids, our blood fats. So we know omegas are really important. And so people supplement with them. Where Juice Plus is different is that instead of getting the omegas from the fatty fish, so the deep sea salmon, for example, and creating a fish oil or a krill oil, what they've said is there's a large percentage of our population who want to get it from vegetarian sources. Why? Because the deep sea fish are contaminated with heavy metals, or if you're choosing a farmed variety, they are not fed the food that they need to make the omegas. What is the food? It's algae. So this product comes from microalgae. Again, really smart. They've just gone straight to the source, the microalgae. So it comes from a combination of microalgae as well as some seeds, because we need linoleic acid, which is from seeds. And this comes from pomegranate, raspberries, sea buckthorn, tomato, and safflower. There are other omegas in the product. There's omega-5, there's omega-7 and omega-9. There is not a lot of research in healthcare about those, so we tend not to talk about them so much because we don't have a lot of evidence. So that's why we've called it an omega blend. That's all you really need to understand. You don't need to say to people, it's got the full array, it's got 3, 5, 7 and 9. Most people won't understand that. What you need to talk about is where it comes from. Is it a vegan source? It's a pure source. And the fact that the vast majority of people don't get it from their diet. Nat?
Sorry. One of the things that people need to understand about how powerful our omega blend is that when you look at Udos oil, which has 25 years of history and research, and it's one of those products that most foodies gear towards because it's got omega-3, 6 and 9, it's plant-based, it's certified organic, and it has a research journal that's attached to it. And because the omega-3 is in a 2 ratio and the omega-6 is in a 1 ratio and the omega-9 is in a 1 ratio. So when you have your omega-3 that is heavier, it's double because it's in a 2 ratio, so 2, 1, 1. Because it's higher, it creates weight loss. But when your omega-6s are lower, when your omega-6s are higher, which is all your grains from bread and pastas and things like that, then you have weight gain. So your omega-3 diet, the Mediterranean diet, is far more powerful. It's also a very keto-based diet. It's also a very paleo-based diet. And the thing is, it's very important to understand that our omega blend is an omega-3, 5, 6, 7, and 9 in a 2, 1, 1, 1, 1 ratio, in my understanding. Now, the most important thing is that because it's vegan, it's easily absorbed and bioavailable into the body. It lubricates the nervous system. And what we see as food coaches, Carla will attest to this, is that when people overstress, over-exercise, overtrain, overthink, overwork, what they do is they stress their nervous system and make it raw. And you need a lot of fat around the nerve, so the myelin sheath needs to be thick for messages to go from the gut to the brain. So the neural pathways from the gut to the brain are quick, so you have happiness, you have joy, you have quick thinking, you are humorous, you're witty, you're alert, you're clear, you're creative. So the nervous system needs lots of good quality fat in this way, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. And it's very hard to do that with your diet unless you're a nutrition expert. But what we try to say to people is all your omega-3 fatty acids, it's from your fish, from your nuts, from your seeds, all these things. And if you focus on having that higher in your diet, then all the omega-6s, which is your grains, bar coconut oil, that's a beautiful exception, you are going to feel a lot better and you're going to be able to maintain weight and you're going to be able to lose weight if your body needs to go that way. So the Omega Blend is perfectly put together for us to have stability with our weight or weight loss, but that hasn't been proven yet by any of our science because we haven't done any research on it yet. But I'm sure it is coming, and if they didn't do it, this would be crazy. So what I love about it is that I personally take this knowing I've got the right ratio, and I always think more is better. So I'll take Udos oil and I'll take this just to cover off on all the other fats that might not necessarily be in the Omega Blend, and vice versa with the Udos oil. So I might have my Omega Blend in the morning, but then I'll put my Udos oil in my smoothie as a fat. And then I know I'm getting nut and seeds, and then I'm getting, these marine phytoplankton oils, and I'm also getting the raspberry seeds and pomegranate seed extracts as well. So I'm getting a great variety. And then it's lubricating my nervous system, and the messages are clearer, and the body is brighter and smarter. See, before the Omega Blend, I was quite dumb. So I actually feel quite alert now. I love it.
Thanks, Nat. Okay, Philippa, you've asked a question. You asked a question about a child who's got a skin depigmentation condition. She's 7, started when she was 5, just around her ankles. Would you recommend any of the products specifically for this, or the kids choose be sufficient starting point? She eats a great diet for a 7-year-old. You mean an average Australian 7-year-old whose diet's not good. Okay, so first things first, we don't know what this condition is. She could have an autoimmune condition like vitiligo, which is where the autoimmune system attacks the melanocytes, which are the cells that create pigmentation. Often vitiligo is found in the creases, knees, elbows, so around the ankles is quite possible. So I think the very first thing is we don't know what this condition is. So the thing you must always say to people about our products is we do not claim to cure or mitigate any disease. This is not a product for that. Which is often quite hard because you have people who pop on and they say, will you be able to fix my dermatitis, or or, you know, will you be able to fix my asthma? Because we often share stories around that, don't we? But we walk a fine line. So as much as sharing stories is really good, we must always qualify that with, this is my experience. This may or may not happen to you. However, this is what I found. So can I say that this is going to help with this condition? No, I can't. But certainly we have seen, and this is where Transformation Hub is really useful for people, we have seen people who have had improvements in conditions like this. So I would always add a prospect onto Transformation Hub in this context so that they can read other stories and make the decision for themselves. Would the kids' choose be a sufficient starting point? Yes, I think so. I suppose the thing to think about is whether or not taking 1 capsule a day may be a better alternative than taking 2 of the kids' chews, just because you're then avoiding any of the sugar whatsoever. Obviously, in the chews, it's made out of a fruit pectin, so it's not gelatin. But there is, to make it palatable, there is a certain amount of organic cane syrup in there. So, you know, if they wanted to just look at the pure powders, you could look at 1 capsule a day in a 7-year-old, even opening that up into their food. If they're not great at taking capsules, maybe a way to go. But can I say this is going to improve the condition? No, I can't. But I have seen people have improvements in skin conditions. But then again, I don't exactly know what's going on. I mean, there's a whole field called dermatology to deal with lots of skin conditions. This could be one of 1,000 things. So unless we know what it is, can't really say much more. Mel, I have a question about putting orders through using our personal website. Do you mean, can I do it, or should I do it? Or if you can just qualify that. I'm just going to move on to Jess and I'll come back. Jess, where do you get iodine from? Okay, so there is not a significant amount of iodine in the Juice Plus capsules. So if you require additional iodine, you'll need to get it from other sources. You can take a straight iodine supplement. I probably wouldn't recommend kelp, because a lot of the kelp supplements out there are tainted with heavy metals. Iodized salt is a really good place. A teaspoon of iodized salt per day on your food will give you 150 micrograms, which is probably about your recommended daily intake. So unless you have a blood pressure problem and you're discouraged from having salt, then that's a really good place for getting iodine from. There are specific supplements out there. We don't in metropolitan Western Australia, so in cities where we have a reasonable diet, we don't have iodine deficiency. The only iodine deficiency is in our Indigenous population in the far north. However, as a result of that, all pregnant breastfeeding women are encouraged to have additional iodine. It's sort of like, if there's one group that has a problem, we're going to make sure everybody is supplemented. So there are certain guidelines now about supplementation with iodine. But honestly, Jess, I know you've got a great diet. I doubt very much you have an iodine deficiency. But if you really need a little bit more, a teaspoon of iodized salt in your food is probably all you need. Sarah, I just wish the EPA DHA amount was higher, as I struggle to recommend it as a practitioner because the amount is so low. If you believe the research and what the requirements are, I still think that there is some controversy, Sarah, around exactly how much people need to supplement with. But yes, it is probably under what the recommended daily intake is. But if we are encouraging people to also eat a wide variety of foods that contain omegas, then they should be by rights achieving their recommended daily amounts. Nat, do you have any further comments about that? You're obviously supplementing with Udos oil as well.
Yeah, well, the thing is, right, if you've got also those fats in your diet, it should be relatively enough. But also to remember, this is a whole food concentrate that's bioavailable. Whole food medicine heals the whole body. And if you treat yourself like one cell, we're trying to feed the engine of that cell. And we're trying to feed it bioavailable plant-based nutrition. Now, when we do this with something that is slightly processed, as in some of these fish oils with heavy metals, they aren't bioavailable. The EPA DHA might be higher, but who's saying that it's actually bioavailable? Where what we know to be true with the Juice Plus products is that it's 100% bioavailable. So it's an available source to the body. But I know that Bioceuticals does an 885, 650 50, I think it is approximately EPA DHA, which is extremely high, which is really good. It's a brilliant fish oil supplement, but it's a fish oil. It's not vegan. So that's why I love the omegas from Juice Plus. It's vegan and it's bioavailable. So says, I know that's a naturopathy thing, but this is a whole food. This is a dietary thing. This is actually about food itself, not about supplementation. So I know it's one of those things for you, but we can talk about it further.
Maybe take more. There's no harm in taking more capsules. That'll just increase the amount of DHA and EPA if you want. There's no harm.
Or just eat, fats in your diet.
Yeah. Mel, you went to your personal website. So this is your website with Mel Koch written up the top, and there's a cart. You added the prospect's order to the cart and copied the website and sent it to her. But then she said the order hadn't been added to her cart, so I had to give her instructions on what to add to her cart. Okay, this is what I do with my website, because everybody, very soon, I don't know how soon, but it may be a conference, we are going to be advised that we will now no longer be able to take people's credit card details over the phone. That is a direct sales issue. It will be for all online business. You might realise now that you can no longer give your credit card over the phone to anybody. They have to give you a website and you put your own credit card details in. So that will be a direct sales guideline and our company will have to follow it. So very soon we won't be able to do that, but at the moment we can. So what we're encouraging people to do is use your own website. So everybody here has their own duplicated website. What I do, Mel, is I go down to the actual product on my cart. So I go into my cart, I go down to the product, let's say it's 30 sachets of Complete. Then what I do is I copy that URL on that page. So don't give them melkoch.juiceplus.com.au. Give them the full URL down to the product, and then the product is right there and they just click on it and then follow the order through. I suspect probably when you already added her to the cart and then you sent her the link, it probably went back to zero. And so she had to do it herself. What I would suggest in that situation, if she went all the way through and she can confirm that on her credit card she has had the initial order taken through, follow it up with head office tomorrow. It may take overnight to process the order, but yeah, if she hasn't received an order confirmation, follow that up. But that's something, if anyone else has any quick, easy tips on how to use your website, that's what I've started doing with all of my customers and taking them all the way through the product that they need to order. Cool. Does anyone else have any questions? I know we've gone a little bit over. Any other questions about product? Well done, Beck. New order through. Great job. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.